What's good, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I'm your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. In this post-game edition of Disguise Coverage, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We will be going over the Buffalo Bills 2025 Week 1 preseason loss to the New York Giants. Some stock up elements, some stock down pieces to talk about some players, some sides of the ball, some position groupings, things that you have come to expect here from Disguise Coverage as we get into, kind of close to regular season mode. I've been doing the post-game show for the preseason. I think this is the third year in a row, so I'm excited to kind of continue on this trend. For those of you joining me live here on YouTube, as several of you already have in the comments, and I'm going to continue to go through everything, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, likes, dislikes, worries, pros, cons, your stock up, your stock down, anything and everything that you folks have on your mind coming out of this Week 1 game. Feel free to put it up into the comments. I will bring up anything and everything as much as humanly possible. As always, super chats get the priority. One, because I respect the monetary donation. Two, the color distracts me from my notes and pulls me back towards everything. So anything you got, feel free, put it into the chat. Let's have as much of an open discussion as we can about this Bills start to the season, even though it's kind of not live, but it is. Well, it is live bullets, but preseason aspect. Let's see how everybody feels about that. But let's start to go through. Just a tip of canoe opened up with the first comment and said, if you got a sponsorship with Post Cereal, this could be the post-game coverage. Crunchberries is where it's at. I think that's actually a really smart comment. I like that. Jason saying some almost real football to have a post-game show about finally, exclamation point. Feels good. Oh, I got to stop because we got a super chat. Appreciate you, Greg. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for the super chat. I don't know if you had meant to have a comment attached to the super chat. If you do, put it in there. You don't need to do a super chat again. Just put whatever comment you got, and I'll bring it in. But thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you very much for being here. Let's go. We're going to rip through a bunch of the comment here. Death, taxes, and the Bills defense giving up third and longs. That is an aspect I do want to touch on that within this episode. I'll probably lead off with it as we kind of go through several of the comments, because it was hilariously ironic, if not maybe kind of painfully ironic, but I do want to put some context into it. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing, but also it's the preseason. It's hard to kind of hang your hat on that being the expectation, but we'll see going forward. Titan jumping on that as well, saying so much for our D being aggressive. Juba comes in and says 5-12. Is your assumption that the Bills are going to be 5-12 off of this preseason loss? To each their own. I don't know if that's sound process. Tim says win or loss, it was Bills football, and I loved it. Ben coming in and saying, in response to Titans comment, saying, to be fair, it's week 1 of the preseason. They aren't playing anything exotic. That is very true. Gordon, I see your comment here. Thank you very much for the kindness. Oh, I didn't mean to pull it up, but I like that. Appreciate you. Lou saying, are we really going to be doing the third down gnashing of teeth again this year? Okay, there's my big gripe with Dwayne Carter being associated with that. Yes, we will be. We will be talking about the third down defense and some of the pieces in terms of pass rush and coverage in general. Steve, what's up, Steve? Steve says, Jacob Buyer cost us something special. Yeah, maybe potential game-winning drive to go down and win things in week 1. Bit of a high snap. Buechel, I never know which. I've heard it both ways. I'm going to say Buechel, unable to get on it. Giants recover, essentially kind of ices and ends the game. Comment here saying from AZN Swims, repeat after me. I will not overreact to the preseason. K. Amori saying, I'm disappointed we didn't get to see a Shane Buechel legacy drive to Deion Kane. Jacob following up, yes. Or John Roberts saying Jacob Byers' stock is down. Just to canoe, very way to stay ahead of here, saying being healthy is the biggest priority. Ryan McAllister saying Ty Johnson looked good. He did look good, and that, I think, follows in conjunction with Mark's comment here saying Frank Gore Jr. is ready. That's all I got to say. Yeah, Ty Johnson looked good. Frank Gore Jr. looked good. I think most of us know Frank Gore Jr. had a really good preseason last year. Looks like he's on track to have that again. Thought he really looked good. Tim saying, I enjoyed the flashes from some of the young guys. The first team O-line had a fight on their hands with that Giants D-line. Yeah, we'll talk about that as we start to get into kind of my official notes and pieces going forward. But yeah, the Giants D-line, the Giants defense in general, I like Andrew Phillips. Coming back from last year, I like Tyler Nubin. They add Javon Holland. They add Paulson Adebo. We'll see what Banks can be as, the corner two opposite of Adebo. He had a really strong rookie year, a bit of a down second year. If he can get back to his rookie form in year 3, that secondary seems to be really good. And even if Banks isn't solid, you have 4 other players that are really solid. And then the front is just nasty. And the linebackers aren't anything bad to sneeze at either, especially with Okereke there. And even McFadden shows the ability to make plays. He had a nice scrape over the top on the wheel against Ray Davis early on in the game. But yeah, that front is nasty. Abdul Carter had 2 real clean wins today. The first one actually wasn't completely clean. He rushed inside against Torrance. Torrance got a piece of him, but Carter had the edge, and Torrance kind of let him go to not draw the holding. And then the other one, Carter beat Dawkins clean off the left edge with an inside move. Yeah, that front is going to be nasty. Oh, interesting comment. What are the chances Moore and Samuel don't make the roster after Shavers' day today? I would say, I think let's not react too much to one game, but Moore, I think, could be a potential cut. I don't think it was a guarantee that he was going to make the roster anyway. The tough piece with Samuel is if you cut Curtis Samuel, he carries a dead cap hit of essentially $12.1 million. Even if you release him after, June 1st, yeah, you're getting a dead cap hit of $8.6 million this year, $3.4 million next year. So Samuel, I think, is not even almost. I think he's a lock to make this team. I don't see them eating $12 million in dead cap unless somebody really emerges and or he falls off the face of the earth. So we'll kind of see. Max says, is there a schematic reason why the Bills struggle to defend screen passes? I think it could be twofold, especially with the type of defense they are. If you're attack-minded and you're like a one-gap, penetrating, let's get upfield type of defense, your natural movement is pin your ears back, let's go. You take some steps upfield, and then a screen pass gets hit behind you or gets hit on the outside. And then if you're also pairing that with like kind of the softer coverages underneath, it just creates a lot of space, from the line of scrimmage to traditionally where the first down is. That space gets filled with the blockers. Guys have to come from depth. Angles are in question. If one guy misses a tackle, you're almost done and dusted. So I think it's a bit of just kind of who the Bills are philosophically as a defense and within their identity. It just kind of tends to work against them. You have to really ID the screen quickly before you get into your drop or before you get into your rush. And I think that affects a bunch of defenses, but the Bills especially, because their front really is attack-minded, get upfield. Then you also have smaller guys at the second level, Bernard, Milano, Taron Johnson. So you have smaller guys trying to fight through bigger offensive linemen and sometimes tight ends. So it's kind of a perfect storm for them taking a beating in that regard. Green Dog says, how do you feel about benching Josh Allen over a mustache? Micah, why isn't the third down defense not successful? Well, we're going to talk about that. John Roberts saying the defense stunk. Yeah. Oof. Man, everybody's kind of going through. Jackson with some positivity saying Deion Walker was impressive. Ryan saying the rookie defensive tackles flash. Good seeing them roll out Bosa. He looks healthy. Fingers crossed. Absolutely. Everything that we say positively in this episode is fingers crossed and no jinx. I want to kind of preface that with everything. Lou saying, I was skeptical about the Walker pick in the draft. My goodness, I may have been very wrong about him. He looked outstanding. Quick, violent, and hard/impossible to handle. I'm excited to see the tape. I always kind of reserve judgment on offensive line and defensive line stuff on post-game shows just because I feel like the broadcast doesn't do it justice. Same thing with a lot of coverage pieces. So I really want to get into the tape to really give a full assessment or analysis or thought on the trench stuff, the coverage stuff. But I am excited to kind of get into that. I appreciate the comment here. I'm here after an 8-hour shift and 40 ounces of NOS, whatever it took to get you through the day. I appreciate you getting through your day and for joining us here. Thank you very much. John says, I like Tyrell Shavers. I like Tyrell Shavers as well. We're going to get into that. Jimmy saying almost like they're afraid to give up a big play. I think that also ties into the screen piece as well. If you're trying really hard to kind of protect things over the top and put a cap on an offense and not get beat vertical and get beat over the top, kind of by default, or definition, there's going to be more space to attack underneath for an offense. And so guys just kind of go through there. Lou saying Frank Gore looks like he had more juice than he had last year. A lot of positivity for Frank Gore going out there. Titan saying, Jason, this is always the response, but we do this in the regular season too. We are bad on third down. It's not a preseason issue. See a lot of comments on the defense. John saying Bills didn't have enough pressure. Mark saying, where the hell was the defense? John saying Bosa had a lot of pop out there. You could see why he's healthy, why he's elite when healthy. Yeah, I like Bosa. You know, I thought he was one of the positive standouts with the first teamers. Let's kind of just jump right into, you know, the preseason post-game aspect. I want to start with the third down defense, and I want to say on two things, right? I tweeted this during the show. It was very painfully ironic that the Bills had the struggles that they did in 2024 on third down overall, like third down as an entire down. But then especially with struggling on third and long like they did in 2024. So for them to have those third down struggles in general last season and to struggle especially on third and long, it was painfully ironic that coming into this opening preseason game of 2025, that there was a good handful of third and longs and the Bills gave up conversions on a lot of them. And I'm also including the one where it was like early on, it was like 3rd and 8 and the Giants got 7 and then went for it on 4th down and got the first down. So I'm also including that as kind of like a third down, even though it's not a third down conversion, I'm kind of throwing it in there. Yeah, it was disappointing to see. I will say this, and not to kind of put it out there because we have seen what the Bills have been the past several years, but for all the talk that there's been this year of, you know, Ryan Nielsen coming in, more 5-man pressures, more 6-man pressures, more sims, more creepers, more man coverage, all of that. If we are going to see those changes this year to the Bills defense, again, changes in terms of how they've operated schematically on defense in high leverage situations or overall the past several years, we're not going to see those changes in the preseason. So I hate to kind of almost put a pin in that, but we're not going to see, the Bills aren't going to come out in the preseason on third downs and run a bunch of exotic 5-man pressures or run a bunch of sims or creepers. They're not going to start to get into their bag in that regard because that bag is different than what they've been previously. So they're not going to want to show that. It's still going to be very generic, very, you know, quote unquote vanilla defense type of stuff. I will say the one that I really noticed in the third quarter, I believe it was a fire zone pressure. So they brought 5 and then it was 3 under, 3 deep from a coverage standpoint. They dropped Landon Jackson. He was almost a pole runner in the middle of the field. It looked like Jackson's covering somebody. They're matching underneath. They brought Jenkins on the blitz and they brought Jordan Hancock on the blitz. Hancock came almost like a free runner, got chipped a little bit, but he heated up the quarterback. Winston threw it. Dorian Strong got the PBU. That was really the only glimpse of like something exotic or creative up front. I liked that. I mean, I gravitate towards that type of defense anyway, but I thought that was somewhat encouraging because I expect more of that from the defense when the Bullets are live, especially when Michael Hoyt comes back. I think Hoyt is going to be a big one in terms of front variation, versatility, guys, you know, traditional guys and non-traditional alignments, guys dropping into coverage, guys rushing. I think a lot of that is going to be wait and see, but it is annoying, right? To see the defense kind of operate in a similar vein as they have the previous year, especially after so much of the offseason conversation was like, you bring in Mike Pellegrino, you bring in Ryan Nielsen, you're so bad on third down. And it's like, okay, more man coverage, more games up front, more 5-man pressures, more 6-man stuff, sims, creepers, all the things we continue to mention, like more marriage of coverage and pass rush. And then they come out in the first preseason game, give up 30 plus. There's a lot of space underneath for guys. They're missing some tackles. And there's more than several third and long conversions. So I understand the frustration. I am in that boat. I'm just not ready to get too upset about it because I didn't expect to see the changes that I want, that I've been kind of clamoring for the past several years. Like, and I've been saying this, especially if you're a regular watcher of the show, I've been saying this for years. Like, I wanted more blitzing from the Bills. In general, I just love simulated pressures and creepers and zone blitzes, fire zone stuff. I love match coverage. I love mixing in more man. I'm all about, you know, changing the front and coverage structure pre to post snap as best as you can and making life hard on a quarterback, changing the picture on them, keeping offenses guessing and playing really on the forefront, I should say, and kind of dictating towards them. The Bills haven't really ever been that, even when they've been a very good defense. So I've been kind of clamoring for several of these changes for years. And so I'm very firmly in that camp of the Bills defense needing several tweaks schematically and from kind of an identity perspective. I wasn't expecting to see them in the preseason, just in general in week one, but in preseason overall. I'm not expecting that. And even what's even more frustrating, again, like I mentioned, like even if they don't do the things I'm looking for to start the season, part of me is still like, well, let's see what happens when Michael Hoyt comes back, because I think he's going to be an important part of the variety and versatility they have up front and tying things in together. So we'll see. But yeah, it was disappointing. I don't fault anyone for being annoyed, even if it is the backups, even if it's preseason, so on and so forth. Just all the third down conversions in general in this game, but especially the ones from third and long. And kind of want to let me pull up I want to see what the final third down conversion rate was for the Giants in this game. The Giants ended up 9 of 19 on third down, so pretty good ratio. And I wish I knew how many of those were third and long, but I feel like it was at least 6 or 7, which is unfortunate. And Charles saying, yeah, not getting much schemed up stuff in the preseason. I just like to see how individual players look. I'm right there with you. I'm not looking for too much other than a couple little flashes, like that one third down look that I talked about. I saw that and I immediately made note of it. That's going to be one of the first plays I, kind of clip from a film perspective and go in and look, because I was like, oh, this is nice to see. But I wasn't expecting too much of that throughout the preseason, especially because it's not their identity. I don't think they want to show that stuff or show their hand early. I think they're just going to work on it more kind of behind the scenes, but we'll see. Titan saying the D-line has got to get home. I don't want to hear about pressures. It struggles to actually get to the quarterback. I think, I feel you on that. I do think you have to get home to kind of make the pressures worthwhile, but I do think there is something to be said for the value of pressures. I think my bigger takeaway in this game was I felt like there weren't a lot of pressures, especially from just a front four perspective. Again, I think the tape will kind of put more into perspective than just the broadcast, but I just felt the QBs had too much time, and I felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between the rush and coverage. But again, preseason, I'm not putting too much stock into it, but I would like to see more, I should say, in that regard. Gordon says, I don't love the pause with Hoyt. The scheme shouldn't rotate around one rotational defensive player. I don't think it's going to rotate or revolve around him. I think it's more his skill set allows you to do certain things, and his skill set isn't tremendously common, not just on the Bills, but it for a lot of guys, right? So I think it's more of a niche role, and we'll see kind of what he becomes, or maybe they try to drop somebody into that role, or maybe we just see more blitzes. Maybe we see more man coverage. There's something to cobble together, but I do think Hoyt is there's an element of chess piecery with Michael Hoyt. Not to say that he's this great mismatch creator and an advantage for any defense, but he is a bit of a unicorn with what you can do with him from a rush perspective, from a coverage perspective, inside, outside, off ball. I think there's kind of a variety to what he can be, and I don't think that's necessarily a thing that's readily prevalent or available, not just on the Bills, but on a lot of different teams. And also, especially for the Bills, they don't traditionally gravitate towards those type of guys. I like building defenses out of those type of guys, or getting more of those type of guys within a defense. So you can have more hybrid looks, more questions that the offense potentially has to answer, but the Bills just traditionally have not kind of gone in that direction. So those are my thoughts on the third down defense. A bit disappointing. And Charles saying, I'm concerned about our defense versus the quick passing game. Casey killed us with it, and today it seemed the Giants had some success targeting Trey. I really want to see the coverages. I noticed early on, Trey, and I don't really think necessarily targeting Trey. I think it was just they were working those kind of no cover zones, or that underneath space that, to your point, was readily available and readily prevalent. I think for, to credit Trey, I think more often than not, he came up and did make some decent tackles. He missed that tackle on the first third and long. I think it was the first third down of the game, which was disappointing. But I think overall he was, pretty good coming forward. We're going to have to see what they look like. And again, with everything, like being concerned about the defense versus the quick passing game, I don't think we're going to feel better in the preseason we need to see it in the regular season, because the way they combat that, if they do play more man, if they do play more press jam, if they do work in more exotic looks and pressure packages, again, I don't think we're going to see that. And I'm not saying you're saying this, but I don't think we're going to see that in the preseason, which, for me just annoys me, because it's very much like, okay, wait and see. Like, okay, I see these things that I don't like. Let's wait until the regular season to see if maybe they fix it. Like, how much of these are red flags versus them just not trying to not tip or show their hand right now at this point. So a little frustrating, but I feel you. I feel you on that. Let's talk about some more of the positives. We'll stay on the defensive side of the ball because we started talking about the defense. Couple really nice flashes from TJ Sanders. One in particular on the first touchdown of the game for the Giants. The deep one to Lil Jordan Humphrey from Jackson Dart. I tweeted it when it happened, like it's going to get lost in the touchdown of the play, but Sanders whooped the left guard, stabbed, swiped the hands, got through, put Dart on the ground, or put a hit on him as Dart put the ball up. That was a really nice, clean win. And then Deion Walker, maybe like a couple of drives later, beat that same right guard with some quickness on the snap as well. So good to see those flashes from those guys. Somebody in the chat earlier mentioned Joey Bosa. I thought Joey Bosa did look good. Again, we all know health is the most important thing with him, right? But the amount of run defense reps that he got today, I thought was really interesting. My assumption for the year really has just been kind of like similar to the Von Miller role with Bosa, right? Where you roll Group and Epinesa with the ones, and then Bosa comes in kind of as like that headhunter, that mercenary on third downs. Mainly because of his health, you want to keep him on a pitch count. But as I've said, throughout his career, when healthy, he's been a very good and elite overall edge player in defensive end. Like he's good against the run. He gets talked about if he, most of the things that he would get talked about was, the pass rush, the pressures, the sacks, the forced fumbles, all that kind of stuff, right? But he's always been a pretty good to very good run defender, and we saw several good run defense reps from him, and it made me. I'm very interested to see how much early down work we see from him to kind of fill out this season, especially again, if you have injury concerns, do you put him on a pitch count? Do you not? What's his role? How much is he rotating along with rotating everyone else? I didn't expect him to play today at all, let alone how much he played and then how much he played on early downs, but I thought he looked good. And nice pressure at one point, driving the left tackle back into the backfield. I think that was one where he collapsed the pocket a bit, and then Ed Oliver drove the left guard back and then got his hand up and knocked the pass down. So that was really nice. I thought Bosa had some nice flashes today, was encouraged by his play. Ed Oliver looked good in his reps, a couple pressures, driving some guys into the backfield, heating up the quarterback, knocking a pass down. Had a couple nice plays against the run. Ed's played with juice this offseason, and or I should not this offseason, through training camp and through the scrimmage. So I thought that was really nice to see on the defensive side of the ball. I had hoped to see more from Javon Solomon in this game, not necessarily more in terms of snaps, but just kind of productivity. And again, not to say the broadcast is the definitive part, right? I think a lot of it, you got to get into the tape and really see kind of what was happening and the whys behind it. But I'd hope to see a little bit more from him. Similarly for Landon Jackson, I wasn't the biggest champion of Landon Jackson coming out, mainly just because guys that are high cut like him, said it a bunch on the show, guys that are high cut, really long legs and don't have a lot of bend or flexibility to their lower body, those kind of dudes give me pause and worry me a bit. So, I think the biggest standout for him today was a negative where he was offsides on that Jordan Hancock interception. So that was probably pretty disappointing for him or for anybody kind of keeping tabs on him. But again, one game, we'll see where he fits in with the rotation. And then kind of work in everywhere else. I feel I saw Dwayne Carter getting washed down a little bit, which isn't great, but it's also kind of par for the course for him, unfortunately, with what he was last year. And I'm really interested to see what TJ Sanders looked like against the run, what Deion Walker looked like against the run. Again, especially with them having some nicer flashes from a pass rush perspective, kind of seeing what that all looks like in totality. And let's kind of move towards, I'm trying to think anybody else on the D line that I had notes for. No, not really. Moving towards the second level, I thought Milano continues to look healthy, quick trigger, like the first play of the game is that pass to the flat, triggers on it, makes the stop. He looks like he's getting back to that healthy version of himself. And the healthy version of himself when we last saw it several years ago was an all-pro and one of the best linebackers in the league. So really cool to see him continuously moving like he's got health, right? No brace on the arm, no brace on anywhere on his lower body. He's seeing, he's reacting, he's reading, he's reacting, he's triggering, he's shooting, he's finishing. Really nice plays for him. And Joe Andreessen, I thought, had some positive reps. I thought he had a couple good ones in pass coverage, which is really the biggest area for me that I think we need to see improvement from him. When he kind of balled out last year against the Steelers in the preseason, a lot of it was coming forward, right? Him shooting gaps, making plays against the run. I thought the biggest thing for him was improvement from a coverage perspective, being able to robot, pick up routes, playing in some match coverage stuff, but just being sound in your zone, not playing too soft, not being unaware and just necessarily covering grass, but kind of being more efficient and productive, not necessarily from a stat standpoint. But I thought we saw some encouraging reps from him today, but the middle of the Bills defense kind of got picked on a bit at times. So I want to see what that coverage element looked like. Disappointing that we didn't get to see Shaq Thompson today. I think he's competing for kind of one of those depth spots, especially Lauren says season's over. Can't believe we lost. Yeah. Super Bowl window is closed. It's done. They should just pack it up. I wouldn't even bother playing this year. I wanted to see some Shaq Thompson today, especially with Spector being done. But Jenkins had some flashes. Ulofoshio had one. That linebacker competition, I think, is really just depth and special teams battling at this point. Although, again, Andreessen had a couple nice stops against the run. We know what he's a good run defender. Like, he's good triggering, reading. He fits well. He understands where the blocks are going and how to kind of get around them and get through them. At least against, I should say, like, not against the starters, because we haven't seen that with regularity. But the coverage piece, I thought, was the biggest question for him. So I'm interested just to kind of put on the tape and see how we function within that regard. Somebody said earlier in the chat, Jordan Hancock looked good. Yeah, I thought Hancock had some nice plays. That 3rd and 1 conversion for the Giants where Hoyt got pinned inside a little bit, and the running back took it up the sideline. Hancock came from the other side and gave him a good stick and drove him to the ground. Should have had an interception. Well, he did have an interception that was called back because of offsides. Looked like the second level got good depth on that throw, and then the quarterback had to sail it, and Hancock was right there driving on that route, and he was in position to make a nice interception. I also like that they blitzed him a lot. I thought that was really interesting. It seemed, I want to see what the blitzes were in response to, if they were kind of just a natural call on the field, or if it was an adjustment to a motion or a shift, or if they were coming against certain formations or certain alignments. But he had a lot of blitzes today, and I thought he was largely effective on them. I mentioned the one on 3rd down where he got the pressure and heated up Winston that led to the throw, and a Dorian Strong PBU on the back end. But yeah, they're really sending Hancock a bunch. I also thought it was interesting too with the second teamers that Takori Couch was the second string nickel, and that Hancock went right in at safety. I was kind of wondering what reps Hancock would see and where, and today it was all safety. And Takori Couch had been working with a lot of the safeties he was a nickel at Miami, but he had been working a lot with the safeties in camp, but he was really the nickel for the heavy majority of the game. As soon as Taron Johnson went down, Takori Couch came in for Taron and pretty much ran as that nickel from that time until I really think early into the 4th quarter, until Brandon Codrington kind of stepped in and stayed in that role. Couch had a couple nice plays in coverage. I think it was more due to the quarterback being late than necessarily Couch being in phase, but he had a couple good coverage reps from the broadcast angle. I'm excited to see what else he did. He had a couple really good run fits. I'm not worried about that with him, though. He's good physically, in and around the box, tackling, making plays against the run. We'll kind of see what he can be from a coverage standpoint, because he's not the most athletic or fleet of foot type of dude. So we'll see what that is for Takori Couch. And I liked some of what we saw from Cam Lewis, a couple really good run fits early on, including one from depth. Again, another one on a 3rd down conversion. Bosa went inside the running back bounce. It was a light box. I think it was 3rd and 1, and Cam Lewis came down and made the tackle for like a gain of 2. So the Giants ended up getting the first down by like a yard, but it was a nice fit from Cam coming from depth. I think he offers you a lot of positional value because you're going to get special teams reps from him. He can be the second team nickel. And it looks like he's like safety 3, maybe safety 4. I don't know if I think Forrest is behind Hamlin and Cam Lewis at this point. It's just a matter of who is safety 3. Is it Hamlin or is it Cam Lewis? And, does Jordan Hancock make any noise in that safety room and in that safety battling within that as well? I thought Dorian Strong had a nice PBU, but again, I really want to see a lot of the coverage pieces elsewhere. Some of his tackling stuff. He had a missed tackle on one. Jamarcus Ingram had some stuff that he gave up underneath, but came up, make tackles. But again, I don't know if that's necessarily on him or the coverage. So that's something I think we need to see come film time and tape time. What else? Anything else? Anybody got any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns on the defense? I'm going to go back, take a peek at some of the comments here before we move on to the other side of the ball. Yeah, Dane Jackson got torched on that early touchdown to Lil Jordan Humphrey, but then made a really nice play deep later in the game, got his head around. It looked like he almost kind of one-hand picked it on a deep shot. But yeah, I thought that, I think Dane is Dane at this point. I'm really more concerned on not concerned, but can Dorian Strong and or Jamarcus Ingram kind of supplant Dane Jackson? So you're looking at a corner room of Benford, Trey, not including Hairston right now because he's banged up, but Benford, Trey, Jamarcus Ingram, Dorian Strong. Or is Dane Jackson going to be locked in as kind of corner 3, corner 4, and that means you're losing one of Strong or Ingram or even Daquan Hardy, but I think Hardy's kind of further down now at this point. So I'm interested to see how that kind of competition works. I know people are, I think this is referenced into when I mentioned the TJ Sanders pressure earlier. The comment here from Titan. See, this is the problem. Who cares if TJ won when he didn't get home in time and stop the pass? But he won that rep. I think that ball came out in about 2 seconds or under. No one's getting home in that time. The quarterback saw the pressure and decided to throw the ball up. Dart saw the pressure, decided to throw the ball up, and he ended up making a great throw. Like sometimes a defender or a defense makes a great play and an offensive player or an offense makes a better play and they win the rep. You should care if TJ Sanders won the rep because he won clean. It was a nice move and he got a quick pressure. It's not his fault and it doesn't take away from his win up there that Dart made a great throw or the receiver got open or the corner didn't make a play or the coverage on the back end didn't match what happened up front. You still should care about an individual player's development and them having a really successful play on a down play for the defense is still important. You still want to track those players. That's part of their evaluation. Like, what are they doing? That's why it matters. Like you want to see him getting through there regularly. And that's with anybody. I don't know why you would say who cares if TJ won when he didn't get home in time and stop the pass, especially if you look at that play. Like I feel like Dart got that ball out in about 2 seconds. That's not on Sanders. He won his rep initially and cleanly, and Dart felt it and saw it and was like, all right, let me take the one shot. And the shot that he took was a low percentage throw. They just happened to make it. I know just based on how upset you are and everything, you're probably going to say I'm making excuses, but I don't like you saying, who cares if TJ won? You should care. Like he won. He had a really good rep. You want to see more of that. You want your guys on the up front winning quickly. The more they do that, the more the offense is going to have to try lower percentage throws and plays. And if you play through the law averages and percentages, odds are it's going to not work out for the offense. The Bills need more guys up front winning and winning and winning in some way or shape or form, I should say. Comments for Jordan Hancock. Positive for Cam Lewis. Yep. Steve coming in and saying Shavers better be on the 53. He's earned it. Yeah, we're going to talk about Tyrell Shavers as we get into the offensive side of the ball. Wow, there's some. I wasn't expecting all this negativity, but fair enough. Okay, man. To each their own on how they see things. So you don't think like a guy winning one-on-one, beating his man right off the snap and barreling down on the QB and the QB just making a better play. You don't see that as like a win for that individual player. So that's not a win for TJ Sanders because someone else got beat or someone else made a play. Like, he beat his man almost instantly, but that doesn't count as like a win. I don't. I know you have to get. Man, I just think this is a. Oh man, we're only after preseason week 1. What is happening? What is happening? As K Morey says, no positivity allowed. Ant, we lost. Yeah, I mean, again, to each their own. I understand being frustrated with the defense, being frustrated with the third down stuff, especially with what we've seen the past couple of years, right? I think the defense is very much kind of on the chopping block with how they performed in the playoffs and just not just last year, but kind of year over year, even though they've had a lot of injuries. I think people have kind of passed all of that to the side and have said, like, the defense is bad. And then you had the third down struggles in and everything and all of that. You're saying, yeah, it's cool. I'll shut up for wanting us to perform. I also want the Bills to perform. I just think you're being super pessimistic and trying to poo-poo anything that sounds good because, like, you called out earlier, didn't you say in the comments that Cam Lewis had a couple good plays? Some of those good plays he had were still on plays that generated in first downs. So he had a really nice tackle on a 3rd and short that the Giants got a first down on. So by your logic, does that mean Cam Lewis didn't perform on that play because he made a good tackle, but the Giants got a first down? I'm genuinely asking. I would like to know. Because if he makes a good play and you called him out for making some good plays, he was making good plays on completions that were positives for the offense, runs that resulted in first downs. So I just don't know. I do want the Bills to perform. So that was a loss for the Bills defense, that TJ Sanders play I'm talking about, but that rep was a win for Sanders. So obviously you gave up a touchdown. That's a negative for the defense, but TJ Sanders had a win because he beat his man instantaneously and off rip. Yeah. Okay. Lou saying, my big problem from today's defense was Dwayne Carter. Dude just had so many reps where he's on the ground. Yeah, I think, someone else, I forget who DM me or messaged me. Somebody said something similar. Actually, a couple people said something similar to me during the game. And yeah, I don't want to be too, again, because I want to watch the tape. That's my biggest thing, right? I want to see what the call was from the offensive side, from the defensive side, what someone's responsibility was, kind of putting all of that together. So from that perspective, I kind of want to see what he looked like and what he did. But yeah, he continues to kind of get washed out, washed out. We'll see. It's also hard to see the interior all the time from the broadcast angle, but I'm worried for him. I thought he had a really down year last year in disappointing fashion. I also think them trying to play him at like 1 tech and 3 tech isn't necessarily best to set him up for success. And that's hindering him even more because he's more of a penetrator, get upfield, pass rush kind of guy who plays off of juice. And if he doesn't have that juice and he's playing heavier, I think it kind of catches him in no man's land between 2 different kinds of roles. And instead of allowing him to play both, it allows him to essentially play neither. And that's not great. Oh, Steve saying that rep with Sanders is looked at differently. If White or Benford was in coverage, if the pass is incomplete, Sanders' win is a highlight. That's a very great way to say it, Steve. That's kind of what I was alluding to, I guess, without necessarily saying it. Titan, you saying Cam Lewis did make some good plays. There were tackles for no gain. From according to like some stats, he officially had no tackles for no gain in that game against the Giants. So just kind of want to put that into perspective as well. What else? Yeah, we'll kind of see. Comment you're saying, I get fans being frustrated with the lack of pressures becoming sacks, but you are right. Oh, you are right. And you want guys to win. Would be concerning if Sanders couldn't beat any lineman. Yeah, you want to see just again if the defense loses the rep as a team, that is 1,000% a thing. But there still can be good performances within that rep. You might have great coverage on the back end, but nobody up front got home or generated any pressure. You might have somebody win up front immediately and generate pressure, but the coverage is too soft on the back end, or somebody got beat on the back end. So there can be a loss for the side of the ball in general, but there can still be wins for individual players. I guess I didn't think that would be so I didn't think I'd have to kind of explain that out. I obviously you don't want to give up scores and you want results, but I didn't think it was so controversial to be like, hey, the defense gave up a touchdown on this play, but this guy had a win on that rep individually and made a good play. But yeah, Vito saying more things change, the more they remain the same. Defense and third down conversion, who's to blame? It's the disconnect between the pass rush and coverage. Honestly, it's a lot of things. It's the coaching design, or the schematic design, I should say, and the disconnect between the back end and the front. Relying on and then tied into that too is not necessarily having the horses up front that you want. Like if you're just going to rely on your front four to win and beat guys and cause havoc, you have to have horses up there, like Sean McDermott had with Carolina when they went to the Super Bowl, or like the Eagles had last year. I know people are going to point to that Super Bowl between the Eagles Chiefs last year and be like, you know what? Yeah, you just need to rush four and you can get home with that and play coverage. And you can, but the Eagles had like 7, 8, 9 guys deep on that defensive line that were capable of getting pressure and or winning versus the run. Like they were monsters up front. So I think it's a bit of, as it is with most answers with football, it's like a bit of several different pieces. I think it's one, not necessarily having the Jimmies and Joes to win individually. And then on top of that, not necessarily doing anything schematically to kind of overcome that or mitigate any areas where you're vulnerable. So we'll see. But I also think too, we really need to wait for the regular season to see how much this is going to change. Now, like sitting here and having this performance in the preseason, it's not ideal, but I'm also like, meh. If we're having this same conversation after week 1, where, yeah, they had the Ravens, and even, then you got also too, like Lamar's a unicorn and can make those plays all day. But if we're sitting here having these same kind of conversations after week 1, 2, and 3, where the Bills have had like 20 third and longs on defense and they've given up like 15 first downs, then it's a completely different thing. Like once you're starting to show more of your hand and play with live bullets, if the struggles are still continuing, then I think it's time to panic a little bit more, even though it's not ideal today. But as far as blame, it's really kind of a bit all over. I think they just need to do more things schematically in general, but also to kind of overcome some of the Jimmys and Joes pieces. But we'll see. Jason saying a lot of short-sighted feelings about preseason games performance. No offense to anyone. I don't know how you can judge preseason without studying tape first, since the ask is different. I think it's fair for depending on what you're looking at. But yeah, I think that's a very fair sentiment, which is why I always kind of put the disclaimer out there for like O-line stuff, coverage stuff. We got to see what they're rolling, what they're calling, and especially too, again, like not even knowing that, but in the preseason, you're not really getting a lot of variety, or you're not getting any game planning or situational calls. It's really just like, hey, we're just going to run our stuff. We're going to run our stuff. Hey, we're going to run our stuff, and kind of go from there. Lewis talking about, I just hope we draft a development QB next year. Mike White looked decent, but the others seem to struggle. We're going to talk about the QBs when we switch over to the offensive side of the ball. I want to grab any other comments here. Anything else? See more comments going in. All right. See a lot of you guys having conversations with each other, which is awesome. I'm not saying that negatively, but I'm just saying, okay. Cool. Any other thoughts on defense? Feel free to put them in there. I want to move towards the offensive side of the ball. We'll start with the QBs because that was the most recent comment. I was pleasantly surprised with Mitch Trubisky today. Granted, Shavers was wide open on that deep ball to kind of end the half, but him making, taking some more throws, I felt like he's been timid the past couple of years. I mentioned it on several shows over the last couple of weeks, both on my show here and on other shows that I've been on. I feel like Trubisky, what happened with him in Chicago, like broke his spirit. And even in camp, let alone the preseason, it's just always been like, kind of check it down. Now I don't want to try anything. I don't want to try and fit this throw. I don't want to take a shot. I felt like he was looking for some more chunks and kind of taking some shots, which was nice to see from him. Even the ball to Davidson was pretty decent. I think that was still a Trubisky throw. But the ball to Shavers was good. He had the throw on the run to Palmer, which I think he could have potentially hit him a little earlier, but he still got that done. It was nice to see him moving and throwing a little bit. And I thought Mike White had some nice throws as well. I thought overall, again, got to see the tape and see what reads were available, what the concept was, who's number one, who's two, who's three, what does the progression look like. But I thought both of them played fine today. Even Buechel had some moments on the back end. Pre this game, I was very much Mike White over Mitch Trubisky. I just thought Mike White had more kind of gunslinger in him and was willing to push the ball a little more and try some things, whereas, again, Trubisky was very timid. But I thought both played fine from a preseason standpoint and from a backup standpoint. So we'll kind of see what happens. But good performances, I thought, for both QBs, largely from a box score standpoint, just from a game standpoint. We'll see what happens with them going forward. Staying in the backfield, just do a quick clip. I like Reggie Gilliam. Give me more Reggie Gilliam. The run game started to click a little bit with him in there. They were running some traditional counter and power, it looked like, with him. You can just do so many things, whether he's a fullback, whether he's an offline tight end, you put him in motion. He had that nice design to him with or that looked like by design. Again, I got to see the tape. I don't know if he released on his own or if that play was by design. Based on the timing, it looked like it was by design with when Gilliam, he caught that like 20-yard pass where came in motion, play action, looked like he was going to settle to block, and then he snaps, crosses Trubisky's face right as Trubisky hits the top of his drop, and he checks it down to Gilliam. I really like that play design from Brady. If it was by design, but I got to see the tape for it. I like Reggie Gilliam. I just think he's athletic enough to do some things that you want athletically in the past, but he's a hammer as a blocker. There's a couple runs, and I'm going to show him on Twitter in the coming days, like him just crunching linebackers. One, I think he crunched Burns inside. The one where Ray Davis like fell down, but then got up and still ran for another like 4 or 5 yards. Reggie Gilliam caved that entire side in. Like he ran the defensive end. I think it was Brian Burns, cut inside. Gilliam logged him, pushed him down, and then caved in that whole side. That was beautiful to see. Ty Johnson, I see in the comments. Yeah, Ty Johnson looked good. A couple of really good runs for Ty Johnson. Some broken tackles, stiff arms, some speed, some juice. I think Ty Johnson is underrated as a back. I think it's awesome that he's RB3 for the Bills. I think he's more than capable of being a solid RB2 for a team. Davis looked fine today. Gore, we talked about it earlier. Frank Gore continues to just look really good. Again, I know it's the preseason, but man, his movements, like one cut, guys seem to kind of melt and fall off him. He's able to shake guys, break tackles. He's got enough speed. He's got some shake to him. He falls forward. He's got some power. I don't think he's the sexiest in any regard, but he just seems to be above average in a lot of ways. It was really good to see him balling out. Even Darrington Evans, get him running those little choice routes or Texas routes out of the backfield. He's nice. He's got some speed. He can get upfield a little bit. I thought the Bills running backs had a good day today. The backfield in general, the QBs made some nice plays. I thought Reggie Gilliam had some really good reps, that pass catching one, but several really good ones as a run blocker. And then the running backs looked good. Receivers, go to it earlier. I forget who. Let me go back to it. Who had it? I think it was Charles. Yeah, Charles saying Shavers with the rocket icon. Yeah, man. Nice catch early on. Nice deep ball from Trubisky to end the first half. Even the incompletion to start the second half with Mike White, where it was kind of that miscommunication. I think it was more on White throwing to the wrong spot than it was Shavers going to the wrong spot, but you could see him stem that route, release outside, sell upfield, bang, snaps it right back down, sits down, created some separation. He's had some flashes throughout the past couple of years as well, but in a year where Samuel's banged up, but again, I don't think he's going anywhere because of his cap hit, but Samuel being banged up, Elijah Moore has missed some time. Khalil Shakir has missed some time. You've got guys getting a lot of reps with the ones throughout training camp, and I think that's benefited Tyrell Shavers. And Shavers has made a really good case for being wide receiver 5. He's also got a really nice combination of like size and length and frame and hands, and also some long speed. I think for a lot of people, myself included, I thought they'd keep 5 wide receivers, and I thought the 5th wide receiver would be Elijah Moore. The 4 in front of him, I thought would be Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and then Josh Palmer. But if you told me that Tyrell Shavers is wide receiver 5 right now, I don't think that's crazy. Elijah Moore does give you the benefit of kind of playing some of that Khalil Shakir role. So we'll kind of see what starts to happen with him, going forward, meeting Shakir, and kind of how do you supplement that role, and then Moore being able to kind of fit it in addition to wearing, multiple hats. But Shavers looked good. And he's a guy that, I think during the broadcast, they had that quote from Benford about, guys pulling for him because they've seen how hard he's worked. He seems to have a lot of support behind him from the team. And yeah, man, I thought he played really well today. Good, literally Shavers, rocket ship up. Wilkerson, I thought, had some nice moments today. Really wish he could have gotten his feet down in bounds on that one-handed grab around the corner. That would have been crazy. But Wilkerson had some nice moments. Gosnell finishes with some good stats in the box score, but mostly garbage time. So I kind of want to see how that kind of shakes out. Saw some nice things from Palmer. I like the way he stemmed his route on that crosser from Trubisky we talked about earlier, where he released, kind of hesitated, and kind of dead-legged, and then hit that crosser, separated against Banks, and then continued to create separation across field. I thought that was nice. Didn't see much from Keon. But again, a lot of it comes down to kind of what the offense was doing at that point. The Giants' defensive line causing chaos and having pressure. So the receivers are always going to suffer anytime there's pressure, or anytime the QBs aren't necessarily up to snuff. But I was really encouraged by Shavers. Wilkerson had some moments. I'm excited to see the tape for both of them, and especially on the Shavers play at the end of the first half. I don't know how he got so wide open. I feel like, was it a busted coverage? Did he just burn by somebody? I don't understand how you let somebody behind you at the end of the first half like that, but we'll see. But either way, good for him. He had some nice moments in this game. Tight end. Oh, man. A couple drops for Davidson, disappointingly. The second one over the ball coming out of the backfield, I thought he should have caught it, but it was a bit on Mike White. White put it a little, it came in a little hot and was a bit outstretched and kind of hit Davidson more on one hand than it did hit him in two. Had that deep drop, which again, the ball was a little bit behind him, but he could have adjusted a bit better, protected himself, kind of shielded the defender a little bit. But a couple disappointing drops. Disappointing drop for Hawes. I also thought we'd see more of Hawes in this game. I felt like we saw just as much of the other, depth chart tight ends as we did Hawes, if not more. So I thought I was a little disappointed in that. I wanted to see him a bit more. I also thought we would see him a bit more, but alas, we did not. I really like the tight end leak for the touchdown to Dawson Knox. I think tight end leak concepts and delays have a ton of value in today's NFL, especially if you're a good running team, that uses play action. So loved seeing that. Also on that drive, something I just mentioned, I love seeing them hit play action. They ran the ball and then play action, play action, play action. That drive was filled with play action. This team last year, one of the best run games in all of football, but only an 18% play action rate, which was 27th in the league last year. One of my few qualms and gripes with this offense last year. It's criminal that they did not use more play action, and especially with how the in-structure passing game struggled at times, and how they struggled to generate explosives or create separation or create chunk plays. Play action is such I don't want to say easy, but a nice way to add separation or create explosives for you, or create some space, create some Tim says Pistol with a sad face. Yeah, we didn't really see Pistol, but again, maybe they're going to bust it out in the regular season. They just they don't want to tip their hand right now. I'm still holding out faith for it. If they are, and all jokes aside, not even to just play devil's advocate, if they are going to work in more Pistol this year, we're not really going to see it in the preseason. We might see a play or two here from it, but if that's something that they're really kind of tweak into the offense this year, we're not going to see it until the regular season. I am still holding out hope, but we'll see. But yeah, love that play action drive, that first touchdown of the game. Again, they worked more play action throughout the rest of the game, but that touchdown drive really felt like they were just, spamming play action, which I thought is tremendous because it's an area that I think will further help this offense ascend in 2025 and be an easier way to create some in-structure passing rhythm, in-structure passing success, create some chunk plays, create some 20-yard throws, create some 15+, be able to attack the intermediate, being able to attack the deep, and then create some separation too, potentially, if they can. So I like that as well in conjunction with the overall flow of the offense today. Offensive line, I saw some issues in protection. I felt like Lunt got driven back into the backfield several times. Again, the offensive line, I think, is a bit of, from a depth perspective, with all the guys that are banged up. Like Cedric Van Granger's out, Alec Anderson is out, so the depth guys are missing some bodies. Vandermark, I think, had a rough rep early on where he got some push-pull from Brian Burns, and Burns just dropped him to the ground. But again, the Giants have a crazy good front. Shout out to them for their starters and kind of what they built and how they attacked. I really do, again, I don't want to pass judgment or decision on the trenches right now, really, for either side of the ball, but especially on the offensive line, because I need the tape for that. You got to see what the protections were, what the run call was, what the pass call was, 5-man protection, 6-man, what they were IDing and the pressure that came, so on and so forth, how they lost, why they lost, how they won, why they won. But I thought they struggled at times. Thought they solidified a bit as the game went on. But early on, I thought they struggled a bit sporadically, and even just the starters. But again, I think that's more of a testament to the Giants front. They got dudes up there. Yeah, they got a squad on that side of the ball. What else offensively? If you guys have questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything on the offense, feel free to put it up into the chat. I'm going to go back and start going through. Where did I leave off? Charles saying, can Shavers be the wide receiver version of Ty Johnson? Good on teams and can contribute as a wide receiver when called upon. That's an awesome comp. He would be lucky. I'm not say lucky like it's out of realm of possibility, but if we got that, like, he would be lucky to be the wide receiver version of Ty Johnson. That would be very successful, and I would take that. If you could give me that, I would take that. Elishar saying, if Davidson wants to make this team, he better catch every pass that comes his way because we all know he's not much of a blocker. Yep, very fair. Connor talks Buffalo, repping Ty Johnson. Yep, Ty Johnson. Like we talked about, Ben had a good day today. K. Morey saying, I think all of the running backs showed good flashes. Yeah, I similar to kind of last preseason, where the running backs all had good days. Yeah, thought the running backs looked good today. Yeah, Gordon saying Jackson Hawes' drops were disappointing. Was it drops, plural, or was it one? It might have been two. But yeah, disappointing. Richard saying Jordan Hancock looked pretty good out there. Great athleticism. Look quick. I agree. Yeah, Gordon mentioned this too. A lot of guys slipping today. Yeah, I don't know if it was the field or guys picked the wrong kind of cleats, but a lot of guys were having lack of stability in their footing. Coming forward, dropping back, side to side. I didn't know what was going on. Disappointing. Mark saying, Ant, thinking I'd rather keep Shavers as the 6th wide receiver instead of exposing him to the practice squad. I'd cut Dwayne Carter as opposed to Shavers on ability as a gunner on special teams. If they can get quality special teams reps from Tyrell Shavers, that would be absolutely tremendous. If they could get that from him in some form or fashion. I'm trying to think right now. Little bit of, some kick return and some punt return last year. 2023, no special teams, snaps. Yeah, if they can get something out of him on special teams, like if he can be a gunner, especially with that length and that long speed and the size and frame, that would be great. I do think it's hard for Carter. If Larry Ogunjobi wasn't suspended, your top 4 is pretty locked at Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Larry Ogunjobi, and TJ Sanders. And then if you're keeping a 5th defensive tackle, I really think it's between Carter and Walker. And the big thing was was Walker going to be healthy? Could he repurpose some of his body weight, change his body composition, get his back in right shape? At this point, even though it's just one game, the sample size is far too small, but he's shown more flashes than Carter. I'm fine if you wanted to cut Carter to keep Shavers, or if it's cutting Carter because Walker's making it ahead of him. I said it coming into this season, I thought Carter, depending on what the Bills did on their defensive line, it was going to be a little worrisome for him. And the Bills drafting Sanders and Walker and trading up for both of them, I feel like there's a chance Carter could be odd man out, which is unfortunate for him and for the Bills because they used a 3rd-round pick on him last year. Josh saying Hawes might be my favorite draft pick. You could see his strength. Wish he didn't drop that pass, but it was cool to see the blocking everyone has been talking about. Dude is a monster and a masher as a runner, as a run blocker. He's also got some burst and some explosion. in the 0 to 10 yard areas. But yeah, can't drop that pass. Can't drop that pass. Disappointing. Lauren says so many Ole Miss players scoring points in this game. Very fair. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, good call here, Gordon. I did not see the presser, so I like hearing this. Gordon says McDermott said in his presser he needs to see Shavers do more in special teams. They know what he is at wide receiver. That's interesting because they know what he is at wide receiver. That makes me think, do they already think like what he's shown is what he is, or do they think he can do more and they think that he will do more? That's very interesting. Very interesting. Steve says some of us forget Shavers ran a 4.37, which is amazing at his size. Did he run a 4.37? I'm not saying you're incorrect. I did not know that. I knew it was faster than you would think. But fair. Jefferson says, I'm just here for the sparkler versus snake talk. I love snakes and sparklers. Great Joe Dirt reference. Lou saying, early in the game, it looked like our offensive line was surprised, ? By the violence from the Giants D-line. Carter got Dawkins once, and I'm just not used to seeing anyone do that. Yeah, he got them on that inside move that I talked about earlier. Was real clean, real nice. I don't know. I think some teams get geeked up more for preseason maybe than others. I don't know if it was the Giants cared more, the Bills cared less. The Giants are better, the Bills are not, or there was any complacency there. I also think Abdul Carter is just really friggin' good, and it's possible to get got by anybody at any time, any given Sunday. But yeah, it looked like they were pretty juiced up to start the game. I will say that. But I also think they're just a good unit. I think that Giants defensive line is going to be a problem for a lot of offenses to deal with. It's not even because they have talent, but they've got rotational ability. Like just what they are from a high-end standpoint. You have Abdul Carter. You've got Dexter Lawrence, who's one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. Then you have Abdul Carter. You've got Brian Burns. And then what you get from just the rest of that grouping on the interior, even, Roy Robertson, Harris, I think is an underrated type of player. And then you're pairing again with the second level dudes like we talked about. Bobby Okereke is a nice piece. Mike McFadden. I forgot about freaking Kayvon Thibodeau. Like they just have dudes who can rotate. They're just mean and quick and violent and nasty. Yeah, they got a good group. Like I don't know what else to say. They got a good group. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, good pull from Charles. Charles saying Shavers was an outstanding gunner in college. I thought he played good teams, but I could not remember. That's fair. Tim says, I thought LaVisca Chenault kept his hive on life support. That's fair. He did. I think that's fine. Yeah. Ellisher saying, Landon Jackson doesn't seem to have much of a pass rush arsenal. What are your thoughts of his play of late, and what are your expectations for him this year? Oh, yeah, I don't think he has much of an arsenal. I think he's really just a compression guy and a cross-trap guy. He can extend that long arm, drive somebody into the backfield, or kind of just go through them, speed to power, use that length and create some leverage and drive a guy into the backfield, compress the pocket, or he'll use that cross-chop, pin the outside arm in, and try and get around the arc. But I don't think he has much from a moveset standpoint. And I also wonder what he can get to because, like I mentioned earlier, he is high cut. So he's got long legs and he doesn't have a lot of, bend, flexibility, dip to him because of how he's built physically. So there's only so much you can do. I think he really is always kind of going to be a compression guy and a power type of guy where it's just, let me play good run defense, let me set the edge, and let me try to go through guys. My expectations for him this year are more of a bottom of the depth chart type of role. I think if everyone's healthy at edge and when Hoyt is back from suspension, your top four, not necessarily in this order, are Rousseau, Epinesa, Bosa, and Hoyt. That's what you're getting at edge. And then on third downs or certain situational elements, they'll kick Hoyt inside and do different things with him or line him up as that spinner, hopefully. So I really think it comes down to, do the Bills keep 5 defensive ends? And is that 5th defensive end Javon Solomon or Landon Jackson? I think Jackson could get more snaps, similar for Solomon. They could get more snaps if Bosa misses time, especially in those first 6 weeks while Hoyt is out. But I don't really have the highest of expectations for Landon Jackson. I wasn't too high on him coming out of college. I think the value was fine in the 3rd round, considering where a lot of people had him pegged and what I think his floor is, which is a good run defending edge who can compress the pocket a little bit. Great motor, plays with violence, plays with tenacity. but because of the physical build, I think that limits him a bit. So my expectations from him are just kind of like a bottom of the depth chart contributor this year. You can kind of see what he pairs that together with, how he develops, and if he can kind of stack some things and improve. Okay. What else? Good call from Lauren. Lauren says Hard Knocks will probably highlight Shavers now. That's fair. That is fair. That and the contract situation. I think the lead in, I'm calling it now, I'm gonna shoot my shot. The lead in for episode 2 is they do the intro, or maybe it's even before if they do like the cold open type of deal. But I think the opening, like the main opening shot is Cook from that Sunday practice 2 days after the scrimmage, him in his white hat, the white top, the white pants, sitting on the bike, riding the bike. That's what I think the opening shot is. Or something of like Cook walking or not practicing or just standing. I think the first like 15 minutes highlight Cook or focus on the Cook contract situation. And then, yeah, maybe Shavers, especially with the injury. And he balled out in this game. Maybe they show footage of when he got that injury on that first Sunday practice and he got carted off and all the players were checking on him and going from that to playing really well in this game. I think that's a good call. I think Shavers gets a highlight and I think Cook gets focus. Yeah. That and seeing comment here. That Giants D line is serious, bro. Yeah. They are no nonsense. And they got some dudes on the back end that can play. Man. Okay, Amori says, I think the Giants will not be great at the but at the very least fun with their defense and some of their offense. Yeah, I think we'll see what Russ does. I think they'd be more fun on offense with Jackson Dart, but even just like throwing moon balls to Malik Neighbors from Russ to Neighbors, that should be fun in and of itself. And that defense on top of it, yeah, you could get that. Spirit saying even though Bosa did not show up on the stat sheet, he was consistently getting pressure. I think that's fine. What else? Oh, Mark says, Ant, looking at the roster projection I posted, I think safety is an area for improvement. What do you think about adding Justin Simmons? I didn't watch him with Atlanta last year, so I don't know what he was last year. My most recent tape study of him was from 2023. I would take him and potentially put him over Hamlin. I know that might be mean or sound bad to some people, but I would 1,000% take a look at Justin Simmons. But what's also tough is, too, then you're bringing in Simmons now, and granted, he's a vet and a smart dude. I don't know if he can acclimate to all the things that they need mentally from that safety spot, in addition to the physical on top of it, with him having miles on the tires. I don't know. But I think that's a fair question to ask. Bills fan 7883 says, Frank Gore Jr. looks like an NFL running back. That's fair. Multiple comments here for who is 49. Let me get back to the comments. I was looking at something on. No, yeah. 49 was all over the field. Is he a walk-on? Another comment here. Yeah, whoever 49 was at linebacker, definitely everywhere. I think it's funny because he's wearing 49 and he's got dreads, so he looks like Tremaine Edmonds a little bit. But that is Keontae Jenkins, who, yeah, a bit undersized, a little skinny, but yeah, he was flying around a little bit, making some plays. Nice to see him making those plays. Yeah. Any final questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything and everything you folks want to get into, feel free to start to put it into the chat. Oh, Charles, you're preaching to the choir here. Charles says, if I'm looking to add another speed wide receiver, Jalen Coker would be a great target. Not saying the Bills will do it, but someone should. I love Jalen Coker. I liked him coming out of Holy Cross. I put out a bunch of tape from him going into last year's draft. And if you remember, after day 3, Greg and I did the post show, and Greg read from someone, or thought he read from someone, that the Bills got Coker as a UDFA, and I jumped for joy, literally, on the stream, and then found out it was incorrect. I really love Jalen Coker. Yeah, I like this tape a bunch at Holy Cross. He has a good mix of size and athleticism and hands and speed, and I like his game tremendously, and he's over 6 feet, like 214, 15 pounds, somewhere around there. I really, really like Jalen Coker. I I would pull Jalen Coker in immediately as wide receiver 5 right now and not think twice. And I think he's better than being a wide receiver 5 on this team. I'll just say that. I really do like Jalen Coker. Yes, Gordon says Jalen Coker is a Panther, isn't he? Yes. Yeah, that Panthers receiver room is kind of interesting. You got Coker, you have Thielen, you've got McMillan, you've got Leggett. Bryce Young looks like he's starting to kind of find his way with that team. Yeah, Coker had 1 touchdown last night and another really good catch. He had some moments too last year, even with the Panthers struggling. Had some moments and had some plays. Where am I? Yep, Jalen Coker's. But Lou says, I don't see any way Carolina lets Coker go at this point with Leggett consistently shooting himself in the foot. Don't put that negativity out here, Lou. No, you should see all the ways that Carolina lets Coker go. Think positively. Oh, you should only be thinking that they let him go. That's it. They should just outright cut him. Let's not worry about why. Let's not worry about if it makes sense. Let's just think, you know what? They're going to cut him. And the Bills should take him and bring him in immediately. I would be crazy. Oh, that's actually fair. Alex just says in the comments, if Coker is a Panther now, he'll probably be on the Bills in a few years. That's super fair. Yeah, I just need to wait. I just need to wait until he finishes out his rookie contract, and then he'll be on Carolina North. That's super fair. That's super fair. Well said. Oh, that was good. You know what else is good? The best pizza in Buffalo, New York. One Pie Pizza. I don't say that they're the best pizza in Buffalo because they sponsor this show. They sponsor the show because I think they are the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. Sweet sauce pie, cup and char pepperoni, homemade blue cheese. I did a couple shows with Drew and Chris from the Rockpile Report this past Thursday, and it's always awesome to see them and hang out with them and talk football with them and talk Bills, and we just hang out, before the show and after the show. But they always get One Pie Pizza every time I'm over there, and it's always so good. And it hits so hard on Thursday. I'm probably going to get some One Pie Pizza tomorrow, actually, on the way back running some errands. Yeah, best pizza in Buffalo. So good. I mention this every time, like the main points, if you get like toppings, they'll chop them all up and then sprinkle them evenly across the pie. It's just so good. Like everything they do is quality. The ingredients are quality. The way it comes out is quality. It's just honestly tremendous. And they named a pizza after the show and the brand. It's called the Cover One Allen Goat. It's delicious. I'm not going to spoil what the ingredients are. You can find the online menu in the episode show notes, or they're here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. Look up the Cover One Allen Goat, and it reads deliciously and it tastes delicious as well. They also have a catering division called Elevated Catering of Buffalo that I can that I also get my stamp of approval for because their catering stuff is great. I've had them do multiple events over the years. Awesome, different kinds of mac and cheeses, this coconut rice and chicken dish, even good salads. And I don't even like salad. Like their salads hit. Everything they do is just delicious. And they're really good people on top of it, doing a lot for the community of Buffalo. Toys for Tots, partnering with Roswell to knock out cancer, the SPCA, the Alzheimer's Foundation. Just a lot of good stuff from them in every way, shape, and form. So if you're in the Buffalo area or if you're visiting at any point this year for a Bills game, get yourself some One Pie Pizza. You will not be disappointed. Let's grab some more comments that I missed here as we went through. Where was one? There was one I wanted to see. I left off at Frank Gore Jr. Looks like an NFL running back. Oh, the Coker comment. Yeah, where was something else? Oh, Steve saying, I wish Christian Wilkerson could return kicks because he's sneaky good at wide receiver. I wanted to bring this up to talk about the returner position in general. It's just, I like Codrington as a returner. It's going to be hard for me to cut one of the DBs or receivers or anybody to kind of make space for a guy who just plays one thing. Codrington doesn't do any other special teams, and he's probably not seeing the field as an actual nickel corner. So it's going to be tough. I would love if some other position player could somehow make up the returner piece. And I value special teams, but even if it was like Ray Davis and Ty Johnson as kick returners like they were at points last year, or if Shakir was the punt returner, or Shakir could be the kick returner too, honestly. Like I just want the ball in Shakir's hands. But yeah, I wanted to bring this up because the returner piece in general, I think, is a wonky one. Because if you're keeping Codrington, you're essentially keeping him just for that spot, which isn't a lot of positional value and roster flexibility that you're building into that. So kind of see what happens with that a little bit. Lou says, am I allowed to wish cast for Hunter Renfrow instead? We get all our returners. We get a returner in all phases. Our wide receiver 5 who can cover the Shakir role and be a gunner. That's fair. Hunter Renfrow's sweet, especially the Oakland Raiders version of Hunter Renfrow. But I refuse to not stand for Jalen Coker. But I respect your choice. I respect your choice. Bam, bam, bam. What else do we got? Yeah, I think I see a lot of questions about like the 53-man roster and who, kind of makes this based off of, or the initial roster or the 53 or the kind of how the depth chart's shaken out. I am not ready to make any kind of case for that right now. I think we have to see how preseason week 2, I need to see more live game action. And the fact that we only get 3 games instead of 4 makes it even harder. I think let's continue to see that. So I'll be in more of a position to answer roster questions, the initial and the final, once we get through preseason week 2. But that'll be a conversation for next week. I'm going to throw up the banner that says Toodles, folks, because we're going to start to say goodbye here. If you have not already, please, 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 and thank you. Don't leave if you're watching here live. Please drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these live streams. If you have not already dropped a like, please, 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 and thank you. Please do so. They matter a lot. They help the show, the playlist, the channel, the brand as a whole, track and trend in front of more eyes and ears on YouTube and just across all like platforms. So from an internet standpoint, a website standpoint. So please, if you have not already, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video here on YouTube. If you are watching, if you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, whatever you got, please rate and review and subscribe to the show. Real ratings, real reviews are tremendously appreciated. Subscriptions, obviously, as well. Word of mouth is also tremendously appreciated. If you enjoyed this show, if you like the channel, if you like me, whatever it is, appreciate you folks. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about the show. Get them to watch it. Check out the brand. Check out all the content. If you hated me or if you hate this show, or you hate the brand, whatever, try and tell your enemies about the show and get them to tune in and watch it and try and ruin their day. Thank you very much to everybody who tuned in for this episode live. I greatly appreciate it, especially with me going solo. I should have some guests lined up in the next coming weeks, which will be fun. But if not, I'll be doing these shows regardless, going again for each of the preseason games. We're having post shows. I'm also going to be doing the post Hard Knocks show. I think, again, since Hard Knocks continues to roll on Tuesday, so we'll probably do another one of those next week and the week after, and then we'll see kind of what that looks like tying into our regularly scheduled content program going forward here on the show. But yeah, thank you very much for everybody for tuning in live and joining me here. Comments, the back and forth with each other, with myself. If you watched later, listened later, whatever have you, whatever form or fashion your episode consumption comes in, I greatly and sincerely appreciate it. Honestly, it means a lot to me to see everybody who tunes in live and watches after, and the kind words and appreciation that comes through for myself. And the awesome comment. Bob says, I came in late and I got shorted a blueberry in my muffin as punishment. That's awesome. Well done, Bob. There's nowhere to, I was already close to ending the show, but I'm going to end it now. There's nowhere to go but down from here. Well done. Well done. That's a good call. I like that. Thank you so much for that comment, Bob, and appreciate you tuning in, even though it's late. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the kind words that are coming through for myself as we go through. As I always say, I don't like to pull. I see them and they mean a lot. I don't like to pull them up because I think it's corny to kind of just be by myself and pull up positive comments about myself. It's like patting my own self on the back. It's weird. Lauren says, I'm going to go tell all my enemies to tune in, keeping those enemies close. That's also a really good comment. Oh, you and Bob, just great comments to end. Great comments to end. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. Then good again to see you in the chat here, Lauren, like seeing you on Hard Knocks as well. Good to see you back and at it. And yeah, I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you when I see you. I'll be breaking down a bunch of tape on social in the coming days, depending on whenever the tape releases. So if you want film breakdowns of stuff, find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro__ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at ProAnt. No underscores there, just PROANT. And get at me on either one of those socials. If I didn't answer, if you had a question or something specific that I didn't get to in this episode, feel free to get at me on the socials. Or if you are in the Cover One Discord, DM me in Discord. Get at me there. Yeah. Good times. I understand people's frustrations and or excitements. But let's all chill, positively or negatively. It's just preseason week 1. Not even NFL regular season week 1. It's just preseason week 1. Let's see what happens as we get more sample size, start to get more context and things added as we go forward. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Godspeed. Thank you all very much. And as always, go Bills.